Hello, today I'll be making homemade bread. So first, as you can see, I got my active dry yeast. I have my flour, sugar, and that right there is salt. I put salt in that little pepper shaker. Here it says to cut. So let me see if it's an area to cut it. Take it apart. I have to cut it. So what we're gonna do is take 3 cups of flour, combine 1 cup of flour and other dry ingredients in a mixing bowl, including the yeast. Add the water, which is 1 cup of water, which I have on the side here. By hand, stir enough of the remaining flour to create a firm dough. So using the mixer, blend on low and then beat on a medium-high speed. So what I'm going to do is add my flour and then my water, a little bit of sugar, a little salt, and then mix very well. But what I want to do first is make sure that my dish that I'm using is not going to let the bread kind of stick to it. It's something I'm going to do that's the ingredients on there and then a mixture of what Shayna sent me a recipe. I'm going to use a combination of that. So take your butter and nicely put it on here. So mix. Kind of like mix the butter around. You can add flour at the bottom if you want, but I don't want that. And because I've never made homemade bread, I'm just gonna take my time. And this is what it should look like. So let's measure 3 cups of flour and let's mix. I'm going to use a little mixer because I'm, again, my first time making this. I'm gonna use my scissors or a knife to cut this section here that I don't need. Right here, cut it. It's kind of difficult. Let me see. So would you make homemade bread? Have you ever made homemade bread, you all? This is something that I wanted to do. And as long as you get the technique down, I think that after I get this together, I'll be able to go with making different types. I don't know what type of bread this is going to be. I hope that it's going to be nice and flaky. This is 1 cup. Take a cup. And what I would say is don't pack it too much. I'm not going to pack my flour. And I would want to sift my flour. Make sure that it's a cup. That's a little less. Don't pack it down. That's about a cup. And what I'm going to do is sift my flour. You get me a sifter. So I want the bread to be as airy as possible. Like if I'm making pancakes, dinner rolls, or anything. With this being a holiday, I would love to have a yummy homemade bread that's nice, risen, and I can just eat that throughout the week. And actually just add some gravy on top of it with some chicken, etc. So take your bowl. Make sure there's no water in it. You don't want to have it sticking. So something like that. It's kind of like dusty so that we can sift through the flour, making sure that it's okay. Not so heavy. Once you sift through the flour, it just seems so nice and light. I know it's an extra step, but it's okay. That's dusty. Any extra steps to make it great. So that's 1 cup of flour. I'm going to take another cup of flour, but for now, I'm going to add my sugar and my flour, add my sugar and my salt. You take this knife and cut it open for the active yeast. Not quite an expert with the yeast, so I'm not quite sure if I'm doing this right. So nicely open it. There you go. See if it's open. It's difficult with nails. Now what I would do, they should have a little area that you could just like split it open, kind of. There we go. This is the yeast. So let me see what color it is. What does it look like? Okay. That's cool. Yeast is brown. I did not know if I knew that. Beige color. I did not know that. That's cool. So another thing that I'm gonna do is add my salt. You don't need a lot of salt. You don't need a lot of sugar. This is my salt. I put my salt in this because it's like easier for us if the pepper, just a little bit of salt. I preheated the oven already on 350. And just a little bit of sugar. You can measure. Because I already know how to like pour the sugar. Do a little bit on that side. A little bit on that side. And a little bit of there because you want it to be sweet. Not too sweet. Because again, if it's flaky, these canisters smell like canisters. Okay. Yeah, something just smells like enclosed. Not stinky, it's just like air and I don't know how to explain it. But anyway, back to making the bread. Never made homemade bread, so I'm so excited about this active yeast because just in case I make pizza or something. So what I'm gonna do is just mix this up right here. Mix up your dry ingredients. Let me go ahead and get more. Flour. So nicely do this and be careful. As you can see, it's coming out very well. It's like snowing. This is going to make the bread even better. I'm taking my time. Dump the rest in there. Oh, nicely. Beautiful sound. Because you can make your flour light and similar to cake flour. Okay, so what are you gonna do? Add a little oil to it. I don't have much oil. I'm just using avocado oil because that's what I have left. So you can use whatever you have. And then you add a little bit of water. I'm going to just mix it while I get the oil in here. See if it kind of... Look at how light the flour is. It seems so heavy if you don't do this step. Get some more oil. This oil cost me... I got it for $5 at Aldi. Such a great deal. And it's glass too. It's really nice. They had a deal. You put more oil, it'll kind of like clump up a little bit. Let's see. Move this more out of the way while I'm mixing. This is the messy portion. But it's going to be so good, nice and homemade. Maybe I can learn how to do it myself. You don't have to use white flour. You can use wheat flour to make the wheat bread. You can use Don't add all your water in at once because you want it to take its time. You can use wheat flour. You can use oat flour. You can make your own flour, like oatmeal. You can just ground up your oats. You can use white. This is the bleached white flour. You can use something for gluten-free people. So what I would do now, since it's very nice and liquidy, pour the rest of my water out and add just a little bit more flour so it doesn't be so liquidy like that. Because you want it to be dry. And then basically that's it. Takes a good 15 minutes to make your own bread. You just gotta bake it for 30 minutes. So what I'm gonna do is just let it sit up here and proof. So this is how you want your bread. Yes, and this is the reason why you let your flour, you sift your flour and then you let everything sit. Warning, yeast smells. Warning to you, yeast smells. Because I'm sitting here and I'm literally sniffing, like, what is this scent? Smelling like sour milk, right? We have milk, but it's vanilla milk. Well, and that milk just got bought this weekend. So the thing that got me is like, what's that smell? It's stinky. It's literally the yeast adding it to the flour and adding the water in there. So, wow, baking is so interesting. What I'm gonna do is you can take a damp towel and put it over the top, or I think a damp towel to keep it from drying out. So from here, I'll add a little bit more of the flour, and I'll take a damp paper towel, and I'll lay it on top, just to make sure that I'm helping with the baking process a little bit more. So take your paper towel. Nicely, don't rip it. You can take a towel or a paper towel, but I have these paper towels that have not been used. Okay, so let's see how it is. This is how it looks. Don't over mix it or anything. So with that, yeah, you do want it to have a look like that. I think that's perfect. What I'm gonna do is just put this over it, kind of let it just sit for the next 5 minutes because you don't want it to get dry. That just kind of like sits. And see if it can proof. And while I'm doing that, just push that down a little. There we go. While I'm doing that, I'm gonna clean up and make sure that this dish doesn't have the bread sticking to it. So move it to the side for 5 minutes and see if it'll get a little bit bigger. I want to make my own bread. Now's the time. Wow, this is so exciting. New year, making homemade bread. So it's gonna stink, just to warn you, because the yeast is smelly. Make sure you got you some good old flour. Got this flour from Aldi. It's June 4th, 2026. Make sure that your flour is not old. Please do not drop that. Okay. Make sure that your ingredients like the yeast and stuff is fresh, and your flour, etc., sugar, so that everything can rise like it's supposed to. Let's put a little more butter in here and then it's ready for the oven. What I'm gonna do is put this in the oven so it can be hot. I got a little butter. I have my other butter, but I was like, go ahead and use this, but I had extra. I didn't use some McDonald's, and let that melt in here. And then once I put the bread in here, then the bread's going to just puff up in the dish. This is step by step, no editing. Homemade bread. No baking powder, no baking soda, just yeast, water, oil, sugar, flour. Yeast, flour, water, oil, sugar, salt. Basically just flour, yeast, sugar, salt. You can put butter if you want, or you can use an oil, but I ran out of oil. So flour, sugar, salt, yeast, dry ingredients. Wet ingredients is just plain water and oil if needed. And you can dust it with some, let's see, I would say dust with some flour on top if you want, or after it comes out of the oven. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna dust it with some honey. The next video will show you the results of this beautiful bread. And I gotta figure out how I'm gonna edit my other videos in intention of adding more to my page. Let me see, did it melt? The butter's melting. So let's see after even a few minutes. It's doing the thing. See. Look at how it's like pulling back like that. Oh, this bread is gonna be perfect. You just kind of don't need it too much, but kind of like move it a little bit. So where you're trying to make it, look at that. It's got a fluffy air to it already. I did put enough sugar. I think it was enough. But yeah, the bread definitely smells because of the yeast, but it's gonna be so yummy. Homemade bread. Look at that. Make sure it's not sticking to the sides. Twirl it around a little bit if you want to. It's just fun, fun to do. Yummy. Some people put cornmeal in the dish. I just did the butter so it can have extra flavor. You can put cornmeal so that it won't stick even more. Homemade bread. I'll show you guys the end results in the shorts, and thank you so much. Bye. This is how I do it.